Thank you so much, Nate. Just a real pleasure to be here, a pleasure to be back in DC. As Nate mentioned, I got my start in organics thanks to John Tester. I was a disillusioned country singer, noticing that the folks sponsoring my shows, talking about how good it was to be a family farmer, were driving agriculture into the ground with this industrial food paradigm. And I was so excited to see that there was an organic farmer from my home state who had found a way out of the commodity trap. So I got a job with John, and that was really the beginning of all of this wonderful education that I've had in why organic rotations are so important, not just for our farming and food system, but frankly as a paradigm for how our entire society is going to combat the economic and ecological problems that we're facing now, really very serious problems that we need to deal with soon. So why the lentil underground? Because we are living in an above ground paradigm. And I'll give you an example. I work at the University of California, Berkeley, where I'm a fellow at the Center for Diversified Farming Systems. And we have a campaign now to recruit students. There's posters all over the subway. And they say, your dream job is someone else's dream job. What will give you an edge? And I thought it was so interesting, actually. Secretary Vilsack brought up this phrase earlier today, too, about what will give you an edge, right? I mean, this is the idea of success that we're dealing with in this above-ground paradigm. The idea that success is about being better than someone else. This idea that there's a zero-sum game of competition between discrete winners and losers. You know, think of kind of a worst-case scenario of boom and bust conventional grain monoculture that's only thinking about this farm, this year, this grain crop. And this is a very common vision in our society right now about how prosperity operates. And there's a lot of reasons for that I'm not going to go into at the moment, but you hear this a lot. People, this misreading of Darwin that's kind of in the water, it seems. You know, this is just how nature works, right? This is the way survival of the fittest works, this zero-sum game of competition. But we are actually in one of the best positions there is to combat that mythology about how nature works, because we work with the natural world. And I should say, we work with the natural world. We are the sector of agriculture that invests in the fundamental resources that support all life on this planet. Soil quality, water quality. We do climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation. And we are also the sector of the economy that invests in the fundamental social and economic resources that support broad-based social and economic prosperity. So this is an underground vision of prosperity. We are working at the roots of our natural and social systems to support the things that make them resilient over the long term for all of us. So this is not a zero-sum game of competition. This is about working together and finding complementarity, synergy, mutualism, right? Organic rotations. What a powerful idea. What a powerful paradigm. That in agriculture, in production, in being human on this planet, we're not just taking something, that we can return something to the earth at the same time. That it's not just a zero-sum game of winners and losers. So I think I may be giving David a run for his money in being excited about organic lentils. As many of you know, I'm quite enamored of them. And here's why. Lentils are a legume. They pull nitrogen out of the atmosphere, and they work with symbiotic bacteria to fix that nitrogen into a plant-available form, which they can then use for their own fertilizer, biological fertilizer, synthetic fertilizer. 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the food system, right? Biological fertilizer. Take that out of the footprint. but then they leave some behind for the following crop. So they're working with synergy. They're working as part of a community of organisms towards a resilient prosperity for the long term. And what I thought was so curious as I was doing the research for this book, sort of following on that work in the tester office, meeting all these people that John has been working with for the past 30 years since he made that conversion, organic lentil farmers, organic rotation farmers, they're working like the lentils. They have that same paradigm, sharing knowledge, sharing labor, sharing expertise, doing what we're doing right here. And this is wisdom that our world really needs right now. Because we as Americans, we look to agriculture for clues as to who we are as a people. Think about the way the American story is told. We're talking a lot about the Great Plains today, and the way that story is often told is as a story of cowboys and John Wayne and rugged individualism. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But what I learned from this group of farmers, what I learned from the Lentil Underground, what I've learned from the time that I've spent in organics, is that we are also a people of mutual aid and barn raisings and neighboring. And that's the part of our history, our agrarian history, the part of our sort of Jeffersonian democracy that we really need to remember right now, facing the problems that we're facing. Climate change, economic rebuilding, these are all in the same boat kind of problems. So this is a heritage we need to remember, and that's something that we as an organic community have to offer. So I'm going to read a very short passage here, and then I'm very excited to pass the mic off to David Oyen. So here we go. You can't do it alone. Much like a newly initiated legume farmer, I want to think that lentils are a straightforward substitute for synthetic fertilizer, a cheaper, more environmentally benign alternative. To some extent, this is true, but if that was really all there was to it, there would be no Lentil Underground, just a smattering of savvy growers rationally applying plant-based nitrogen instead of expensive ammonium nitrate. But the fact is that biological fertility is more than just a different nutrient management approach. It's an entirely different way of life, one in which time and space broaden considerably, and the illusion of control falls apart. Building your soil biologically is not a precise prescription for a particular crop, but a contribution to a larger ecology, subject to independent variables, geologic time, and global biogeochemical cycles. You will not capture all the value on this farm in this year. You cannot individualize your return. To build biological fertility is to build community, to accept interdependence with other creatures, and foster a common benefit. This way of life cultivates a new kind of awareness, a new empathy. You have to pay attention beyond this homestead. You have to pay attention beyond this season. Planting organic lentils and all the other crops that go with them, what we're eating right now, becomes part of who you are, what you are conscious of, how you see the world. It forces you to listen more deeply, more expansively. And it softens, to some extent, the borders of the self. This is the great irony of the Lentil Underground, or perhaps its secret. What rugged individualism brought together, only community can sustain. So with that, it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce you to David Oyen, founding farmer, president, Timeless Seeds.